Charles Manson died whilst I was sleeping on the 20th of November, 2017, and I felt it immediately when I woke up, noticing a strange quiet calm that had never been there before. It was only broken in the first few weeks after her death by people seemingly trying to put in an official psychic applications to become my new official #1 nemesis, which I have declined to process in administration terms. I have been fully aware of terrorism and organized crime groups intellectually vomiting extortion plot after extortion plot about me from a very young age. I went out shopping shortly after her death and was wandering around the local supermarket trying to get used to the new, quieter environment. A female wandered towards me with some very tall people behind her, who looked at me like they were seeing someone famous, and she waved her hand game show style and said, "These are some of the failed attempts to breed a lookalike to steal your identity with for the Manson cult," at me in the fruit and vegetables section. I said okay, they looked at me, and I moved on. Anyone who would have been executed under the death penalty in California after I was born in January 1972, that isn't my fault. Particularly if someone is looking for someone to blame for the lack of actual executed death penalties there. There are plenty of people who are fully aware they were born in Folsom prison and Charles Manson was their mother. Most of them have come to the correct conclusion that the general theme of the circumstances around the pregnancies was totally unacceptable, but they do exist, and it isn't their fault either. They are their own person and should be approached non-presumptuously independently of the circumstances of their conception and birth. Unlike the fake life of Hitler alternate unreality insanity show, myself and others can't dwell on what the world would be like if Manson was executed in the 1970s, along with anyone else who would have been if they had not offered Manson the deal and banned the death penalty in California to facilitate it. Forwards is the new forwards regardless. Einstein personally placed his own semen in frozen storage, and there were at least hundreds of children conceived with it. At some point, nearly all of them received some kind of attempt to recruit them to his evil lunacy as if fulfilling his legacy. So do their offspring and descendants. Those spawn of Einstein's sperm include a bizarrely large number of known living and deceased serial killers and psychos. Names like Bundy, Gacy, Gein, Dahmer, Sutcliffe, Perry, Milat, Milosevic, Praljak, Koresh, Hussein, and the list goes on and on. DNA testing suspects in heinous crime is justifiable by law. Testing them to see if their descended spawn of Einstein recruited for evil probably isn't. But is one of those things that could do some good if there is a group of suspects and you want to sort them out. They are all related to me and very loud. Always remember. The neo-Nazi swastika is really two capital NS, for neo-Nazi joined together in one flowing symbol. Similar to Canadian News Network logos after the C. My Hitler the Hohenzollern monogram included on many iconic flags and symbols is not technically a swastika because Hohenzollern has two small letter NS in it, losers. There is also a rhyme that even I repeated as a child before realizing what it really meant. It goes like this. Einy, meeny, mini, mo. Catch a nigger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. Einy, meeny, mini, mo. I'll translate. Einstein was really evil and mean to Adolf Hitler. Einstein used to abduct and disable African-American-looking science students. Then torture them for science ideas and murder them, then if people pretend they disappeared in accidents, like school bus crashes. The next line was made up to imply they let Adolf escape, instead of what really happened. They thought Holler was an incredibly clever shortening of my royal family name, Hohenzollern. And they pretended they let him escape so they could go back to being evil and mean to him in public again. As if he was too old to be any inconvenience for the good, and doing it to him in jail got too boring. I actually repeated that rhyme myself probably hundreds of times when I was a child. Even though I was one of the acutely aware of the facts people around, I repeated it without ever realizing what it really meant until I was middle-aged and adult.